Welcome. It's Brucial, and it's you know what? It is an amazing time to be alive. It's Unscrew the News here, and I have an uh, extraordinary guest joining me, and we're going to be talking about Alberta independence, something that was obviously very important to you and to me and to our families and many generations to come. So I'm excited to have him join me. Um, and you'll know him as soon as I introduce him. But he is a great guest that I've had on before, coming to us from Central Alberta, and he is the leader of the Republican Party of Alberta. That's exciting to have Cameron Davies to come and tell us what the latest is on his trip down to the United States, drumming up hopefully some support for Alberta independence. And I wanted to get his take on what has happened most recently in his trip, as well as we're going to talk about the MOU. We've got a UCP AGM coming up here in a couple of days. And I know that he has an opinion on some things, so I'd love to hear his take on it. So I want to welcome Cam Davies, the leader of the Republican Party of Alberta. Thank you very much for joining me, sir. It is a pleasure to have you
Thank
along.
you.
Yeah,
well,
it's great to have you.
Bruce. Yeah, it's good to catch up again, and lots has happened since the summer. I think the last time we had a chance to sit down and chat, and certainly I just got back from a quick trip down south. I had some productive conversations both in Washington D.C. As well as down at Mar-a-Lago. It was. It's always fascinating to talk to freedom-minded individuals, and I think one of the responsibilities as leader of the Alberta Republicans that I hold is advocating for Alberta independence wherever I go, and so I'm unapologetic for doing so. I've met with members of the Swedish government, of the Swiss government, folks from Japan, South Korea, and of course with the current administration in the United States. And every conversation that we have an opportunity to bring up Alberta independence is an important one, because there's not a lot of understanding as far as how far along we are, where Albertans are at, why we want independence from this abusive relationship with Canada. And of course, at the end of those conversations, it always comes up, well, how can we help? And those are my favorite conversations, because there's two ingredients to independence, and we've said this from the very beginning. It doesn't require jumping through hoops and loops that the UCP is currently making groups go through to have a petition to then have a referendum. It just requires a government with a backbone to say, let's let the people have their say, let's schedule a referendum, and let's begin preparing, as is the fiduciary responsibility of a government, for an outcome, and preparing Alberta by doing all of the things that are necessary. Our own pension plan, our own immigration. We have got to get control of immigration in this province. We have to end mass immigration. We're the only party calling for that. And taking control of our own tax collection and our own future. These are things that the Alberta government can do immediately and has neglected to do so far. And so failing to plan is planning to fail. And unfortunately, that's what we see from this UCP government. So part of those conversations with the Americans that I spoke with, both individuals that work in the Trump administration at the undersecretary level. I spoke with individuals who are current and some who are running again for Congress. Some good friends of mine in the GOP movement in the States that really propelled the Republicans to the White House in their last election. And beyond the jest of a 51st state sort of rhetoric, which I think everyone is laughing off at this point, because it is a bit of a joke. Albertans don't want to become a 51st state. The Alberta Republicans have no interest in becoming a 51st state. But I do remind our American friends that the Republic of Texas was a great thing for the United States, and the only reason Texas ended up joining the rest of the United States was because of an existential threat, an invasion of what was then a superpower of Spain and Mexico. But Alberta faces no such threats, and so I think an independent Alberta republic. In my conversations with our Americans, was simply this: that an independent Alberta republic would be an asset and an ally, both from a foreign policy perspective, having a strong ally that can actually meet its 2% NATO or higher requirements as far as defense spending, and help ensure that there's Arctic security, and so a foreign policy ally and friend, as well as an economic powerhouse and energy superpower. That having a strong ally in the Republic of Alberta would be a net positive to the United States, and that's very well received. And so my only ask of the United States administration officials and elected representatives was that once Alberta votes for independence, the moment we have a clear expression of the will of the people, that the United States government, its elected officials, express recognition of an independent Alberta. That is the only thing that Alberta requires. We don't need a handout. We don't need a cash loan guarantee. We don't need any of those things. We just need recognition that the will of the people has been expressed. We recognize that Alberta is now an independent, sovereign republic, and we look forward to doing free trade. And hopefully, and one of the conversations I did have was big picture thinking, that not only does Alberta do 85+% of our trade with the United States, free trade is a no-brainer, but beyond that, there's a strong argument that somewhere down the line, as an independent Alberta, why wouldn't we have freedom of movement and freedom of labor between the Republic of Alberta and the United States of America? It makes a lot of sense for us to have those discussions at some point once Alberta has achieved independence, that we could begin looking at a freedom of movement, freedom of labor economic zone between Alberta and the United States. So those are the conversations that we had. Very supportive. Again, speaking with freedom-minded people, people that don't like communism, they don't like tax and spend liberals. They think the Conservatives in Canada, I heard this probably over a dozen times. Well, aren't your Conservatives in Canada basically Democrats? And I heard that
Yeah.
over a dozen times at least. Yeah. And I had to agree with them. I said, yes. Right. Conservatives in Canada, by and large, are basically like your left-leaning Democrats in the United States on policy. They're, and so, of course, events like today kind of reinforced that. Unfortunately, I didn't have the so-called United Conservative Party leaning into being a pro-carbon tax party. I didn't have that on my bingo sheet. Yeah. But today, the MOU, as it's being called, the piece of paper they're waving around, has Alberta, as of April 1, I believe, immediately signing up for a 600% increase on carbon taxes just in Alberta. If that's incredible. If that's incredible. If that's the bar for what a conservative government is going to accept in this province, they're not conservative. Plain and simple, they're not. So the crux of the deal today was a minimum of 15 years of an increase of carbon tax for a maybe pipeline by 2040.
Okay, can you get you to hold on just for 1 second about the MOU, because I want to go back, because we need to talk about, you mentioned that Alberta doesn't really have the same threat that Texas had, and I want to push back on that a bit, because our threat is even more insidious, I believe, and that's the Ottawa, Eastern Canada threat that we have breathing down our neck and has been,
Mhm.
you know, that boot on our neck for 120 years. I think that threat has been there. And unfortunately, most of our Albertans or most of Western Canadians are still asleep. And, and,
Yes.
and like you say, they're conservatives in name only, right?
Yes.
They're the, what is the term? It's a sino,
A
right?
sino. Yeah.
Yeah. Conservative in name
So
only. So
you're absolutely right that there's the political threat. I was
no,
referencing
I
a
know.
very physical threat, and quite frankly, I mean, if the blue haired, septum piercing folks from Toronto and Vancouver want to march across the mountains and across the prairies to invade Alberta, all the power to you. Let's see what happens. I know a lot of Albertans that would say, well, we're independent, and you're just going to have to accept that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'll see you on the wall. I know that. I know I would see you on the wall for sure, guarding guarding our beautiful wall that we would have
we've
on
got
the eastern
Saskatchewan. I
edge
mean,
for
we're
sure.
gonna, Saskatchewan's right next to us. We'll see them. We'll see them marching across for at least a week before they get here.
That's right. Oh, okay. So let's get into the MOU because this is really. I mentioned and I posted in regard to the MOU. There was a bit of an event last night, and I brought up a point. I think that this MOU happens to be perfectly timed, leading into the AGP or the AGM
Of
for the
course.
UCP, right? Uh, but it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, and I'm wondering
Yeah.
if it was delayed partially on Danielle Smith's part.
There's no such thing as coincidences in politics, and AGMs, as you know, are really a dog and pony show. I mean, um, the policies that have been passed at previous UCP AGMs, nothing's come to fruition. I mean, the UCP has had a flat tax on their policy book for running on 5 years now. So the policies, even at the UCP party, aren't really worth the paper they're written on.
Hmm.
So it's not really surprising. And I mentioned today I saw a picture of Danielle with Mark Carney, and I just commented. I said, I haven't seen this great of a photo op of Danielle Smith stabbing Albertans in the back since she had a similar photo op with Jim Prentice. It was like a deja vu. You're going to increase your carbon taxes, and of course, it's an attempt to spin. But the reality is that of the 9 items that were on the list, um, none of them are addressed. There's promissory notes, and that's about it. And so the real action is Alberta has to increase carbon taxes, and BC and the First Nations get a veto, which doesn't actually exist. Mark Carney's giving it to them,
Right.
and maybe you'll get a pipeline by 2040. It's performance politics at
Pie in the
best.
sky, right? Pie in the sky.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. I mean, it
But she
really
was
is.
desperate for a win, right? Like
Sure.
the premier's office was very desperate for a win. They're going to run around and what we call polishing the turd, because that's what this is. They're
Yeah.
going to run around and polish the turd as a shiny object and say, "See, look what we did." It's a joke, and let's be very clear: Alberta independence has never been about getting a pipeline.
Right. I mean,
Never.
we all know if you're part of the independence movement, you all know that one pipeline is just a dog, it's just a bone to the dog, right? Even if we
Well,
were
it's
to get a
actually worse
pipeline,
than that.
because it's well, you're right. I mean, because it's never going to come to fruition
Well, not
if
only
if
that,
we're
it's just
yeah.
one more ability for us to pay more taxes to Ottawa.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's like I want freedom. Well, how about this? Instead of freedom, I'm going to let you work harder so you can pay more in equalization to Eastern Canada. How does that sound?
And BC will continue to complain and to block our pipeline going through there anyway. But we still like the money, so continue to offer us money.
So it's all a red herring. I think there was a video clip today where the premier flat out said that she hopes this kills the independence movement. I
Oh
mean,
my God,
this was
I
this
didn't
was
see
her
that.
this was her mission from day one, and she's still working at it. So I laugh when I see other podcasts. I think it was what it's called, the Unacceptable Fringe out there.
Yeah,
Derek fellow,
Derek.
big headline: Danielle Smith backs independence. No, she doesn't. But what did happen is Derek went to the premier's office, had a sit down with the chief of staff, got a head pat and a belly rub, and got new marching orders. So he's out there,
Right.
you know, trying to claim people are you know, Danielle's in favor of independence. It's absolute hogwash.
Was this the post here? Performance politics. This MIU isn't worth the paper it's written on. Join me for a live announcement. Was that it right there, or was this it right here?
No, there's a different video. I'll have to pull it up for you, and I'll send it to you. It's part of that press conference. But she was asked a question. You know, how does this impact the Alberta independence movement? She said, "Well, quite hopefully, I hope this quells it."
Mm.
You know, tries to claim that the independence movement was just about Pierre, or about Justin Trudeau and his anti-oil and gas rhetoric. Not at all. It's you know, 50, 60 plus years of inequality within Confederation. Senate, no Senate reform, no equalization reform, complete inaction. I mean, this government here in Alberta has had a mandate to open the Constitution on equalization. They have had that mandate. They were elected on that mandate. In fact,
I mean, we had it with
so,
Kenny, right?
And we had it with Kenny, and so two conservative and name-only governments in a row have now chosen to not act on the equalization referendum.
Okay, so Cam, just to remind our viewers, but you came from the UCP party. I mean, you were there. Yeah, you were there for a long time, as from what I remember, and talking to I think an extremely foundational person on the movement, David Parker. You know, he gives a lot of props to you for the hard work that you do and do every day, talking about party and bringing people into party. So you know the inside workings of what's going on in the UCP party. Do you see any chance that we can sway our UCP government into an independence movement, or is that
I don't believe
is
so.
that past? Yeah,
I think UCP members who still have high hopes for their party, they really have one of two choices. They either hope that there's a binding independence referendum in action before the next provincial election, so we don't have to have one. It won't be. I don't want to see another provincial election. I made this very clear. I'm the only political party leader that doesn't want to become premier. I don't even want to run in the next provincial election. I want to see Alberta independence, a constitutional republic with an entirely different form of government.
yeah.
And whether or not I run in that election or not is irrelevant. I want to see a new system. I want to see an independent Alberta, and so my interest in the next provincial election is a side note. I hope we don't even get there. I hope we don't even have to get to that election. But UCP members have a very difficult decision ahead of them, and I believe they only have about 6 months to make it. Either within the next 6 months we have that binding referendum on independence, and it succeeds, or UCP members likely need to find a leader who is pro-independence rapidly. And so what that means is that UCP members will need to do what they did to Jason Kenney. They'll need to have a special general meeting with a leadership review, and they'll need to win that review and remove Smith, as well liked as she is in some circles. If she's not going to back independence, if 75% of the party backs independence, then she's leading a parade that doesn't support her. That's just the reality. Failure to do that means that you're going to go into a provincial election with 75% of a voting base that tolerates the leader, not necessarily supports her. And what that does in a trickle-down effect to the candidates is disastrous. You will end up with an NDP government if the UCP members fail to remove Danielle Smith as leader.
Right.
I firmly believe that.
Okay, here's one other thing, because we've got a lot going on. Obviously, right here in Alberta, I mean, we've got enough going on right here in Alberta. We don't need to look south for a lot of things today. But now the unions and the socialist NDP are attacking or mounting a coup I believe this is what it feels like.
Okay.
A bit of a coup against the UCP. How do you feel?
We're gonna probably disagree on this point, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I am a true blue conservative through and through. Recall legislation is a conservative principle. It's called democratic accountability. When we tried to recall Gondek.
Yeah.
It wasn't over misconduct. It was because we didn't like her policies. She was a horrible, horrible mayor for Calgary.
Right.
Had nothing to do with misconduct, right? But we were all in favor of them.
True.
So are we not hypocrites for saying, well, you can't recall UCP MLAs? There's nothing stopping UCP organizers from recalling NDP MLAs. Here's my final thought on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
As an elected official, why are you afraid of democratic accountability? If I'm putting myself into the seat of, let's say, Angela Pitt in Airdrie East, bring on the recall.
Sure.
Let's have another election, get it out of the way. I'm going to win again because I'm going to work my butt off.
Right.
And then you can sit down and shut up for 2 years.
Right.
Bring it on. If you're running away from opportunities to have voters support you financially with their votes, with their boots on the ground, why are you an elected official in the first place?
Okay, I do like your perspective. I am completely on board with there has to be recall legislation. Absolutely. But doesn't it seem like it's when it's it feels like it's weaponized because there's other parties that seem to be influencing.
They're doing it to us. So we just did it to Gondek. I mean, it's what's fair is fair. And look, to be very clear, I've worked on recall campaigns, successful ones.
Yeah.
I was in Orange County, California, when we organized the recall campaign against current governor Gavin Newsom, who may actually try and run for president of the United States in 2028. We succeeded in the recall effort.
Yes, you did.
We forced the election. However, again, majority of California is Democrat, so he won his election handily.
Yes.
So recall isn't to try and say it's weaponized. No, it's a tool.
Okay.
That you have to expect that your opponents can use just as you can use it. But it's a good tool. It's not something that we should be afraid of. I think the UCP is looking at amending legislation to allow incumbents to better defend themselves. I'm not exactly sure where they're going with this because last time I checked, every incumbent has a riding association that can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money in their riding promoting their candidate or their MLA for whatever reason at any time they want. So it doesn't seem like there's a need to change legislation at all. I think the bar is fair. I think the changes that were made are fair. Not many, in fact, I don't think anyone in Alberta prior to Gondek had been attempted to be recalled. Recall campaigns are challenging for even the most experienced political operators to execute. They're not an easy task.
Right.
Are there a couple where they could succeed? Sure. I think in ridings like like Rajan Sawhney in Calgary Northwest, I think she barely won. She was appointed. Yes. She was a Kenny person that Danielle really, really, really wanted to hang on to and was appointed in that riding from across the city. Does she have a base of support there where people potentially say, you know what, I'd like to have an election maybe where I get to choose my candidate? Sure, I could see people like Rajan Sawhney getting an axe and there being a by-election there. Maybe Demetrios from the teacher deal. I know there's a lot of even conservatives who were not happy with how heavy-handed or ham-fisted the government handled the teachers' strike. But in ridings like Airdrie East, Angela Pitt won with 60% of the vote. Are you going to be able to find the 40% of to put it into perspective? In Airdrie, they would have to physically locate by end of February every single non-UCP voter, and get them to sign it by end of February. It's a near impossible task.
It really is. Yeah.
It really is, right? So unless you're getting a sizable percentage of UCP voters to sign that petition, say, yeah, I don't like my MLA. Okay, well then you know what? That's valid. Have a by-election. But it's monumental. The task is monumental. to find 40% of the population that voted last election to sign this petition in a short time frame. So I don't
Great
see it as a
perspective.
threat.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I love recall. Bring
Yeah.
it on. If I'm ever in an elected position and people don't like the fact that I'm doing what I say I'm going to do, bring on a recall campaign. Let's see what happens.
I love it. I love it, man. That's a fantastic attitude. Okay. Anything else you want to say? MOU or talking to the U.S. because I think that so
look, I'm gonna keep having conversations. I was invited to a function in Washington D.C. I haven't said
yeah.
yes to yet, but potentially in January.
Mhm.
I'm going to keep having these conversations. I will meet. You know what? I had the opportunity earlier this year. I didn't talk about it at the time because I wasn't involved in the Alberta independence side in a front facing position. But earlier this year, I had a fantastic conversation with the president of Argentina. Incredible guy. He's quite
Fantastic.
charismatic.
Yeah.
And a huge supporter of Alberta independence. He was libertad, libertad, and he's very energetic.
Oh, I'm envious.
But I'll keep having those conversations.
Yeah.
I get darts thrown at me from the left and the right. I recently did a debate with Tommy Boy Lukazik there, who wants to be a senator. I think the debate's airing sometime next week. I'm not entirely certain. But the Toronto Star, the communists said, well, let's have a debate between the two leaders of stay in Canada versus leave. And so we had a good conversation.
Oh, nice.
And the whole debate, Thomas is saying I should be investigated by CSIS and the RCMP for treason. I mean, it's hilarious. So I reassured him. I said, don't worry, when Alberta becomes an independent republic, you should run for Senate. I'm not going to vote for you, but I think you should have the right to run in an independent republic, Thomas. So it's we laugh, it's funny, but the reality is that I get thrown darts from the left and the right. There was I think National Post had an article last week or so that me next to the premier of Quebec and talking about the independence referendums. And it was interesting. Half of the article was one of the APP organizers or lawyers attacking me for talking to Americans as if he's got the only right to talk to them. I hate to break it to those folks, but I've got a lot of friends in the administration, in the Trump administration, and I'll keep talking to my friends, and I'll keep advocating for Alberta independence wherever I go. I'm unapologetically Alberta first. I'm an Alberta nationalist, and I will keep having those conversations and advocating for that recognition that Alberta needs. Once we have a vote, that's the recognition that we need. As soon as the United States recognizes Alberta as an independent republic, I think you'll have 40 to 50 nations immediately jump on side and say, yeah, we recognize Alberta too. That's how fast these things move. So I'll keep having those conversations regardless of what the naysayers have to say. I think it's something that we have to do, and I'll keep doing it.
Well, I think that you're completely on track. I continue to say that it's our last hope, really, to save our way of life here in Canada. We have a bit of a bastion right here in this beautiful province that we can put a fence around, and we can save this for our many generations to come. And the rest of Canada, unfortunately, will slide away into some sort of abyss. But,
Alberta has the opportunity to be a shining beacon on a hill if we have the courage to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's pray that we do. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you about quickly. I know that we're running out of time, but in regard to this MOU, is there anything that is positive? I mean, the carbon tax alone, is that their answer to the decarbonization that Carney always talked about? Is that how that works?
So I don't want to be totally negative on this. There was one silver lining, but to me, it's a kicking the can down the road. So it's a positive and a negative all in one. It actually underscores that the UCP has embraced the net zero fantasy world.
Mm.
But what they did is they, instead of having 2035 targets, they kicked the net zero target for electricity production down
Oh
to
yeah.
back to 2050. So they kicked it down the road 25 years. I guess you could say that's a positive. I would have much rather said we're not interested in
No.
anything net zero.
Yeah. Say we're
That's
not
where I'm at. I
interested at
still
all.
believe in net zero. It's a communist scheme, but unfortunately, the current UCP government believes in net zero. They just have different timelines than the current government. So let's drift into communism, just not as fast. I don't think that's a choice Albertans agreed to or voted for. So.
Mm. Well, this weekend coming up, I'll be going to it. I reluctantly, on a personal note, I had said, I'm not really interested in joining the UCP because I sort of thought it was a lost cause. But I was sort of swung back into believing that there was, some sort of a rudder that we could throw back onto the back end of the boat. But
I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. I know there's a board election, but there's no leadership review, and the policies. I mean, they shut down a debate on independence, so you're not going to be talking about independence at all. Again, I mean, I was asked this question the other day about, well, what about vote splitting? And I said there is no such thing, because the Alberta Republicans do not occupy the same space as the United Conservative Party. It's like saying there's vote splitting between the NDP and the UCP.
Mm-hmm.
The UCP has made it very crystal clear that they are a Ottawa first, stay in Canada at all costs party. And the Alberta Republicans are, we need to leave Canada at all costs party.
Mm.
So there is no vote splitting. If you believe in independence, then you have the Alberta Republicans as your choice. If you believe in Ottawa first, then you have the UCP as your choice. If you believe in communism first, then you have the NDP as your choice. So those are your choices in the next election, and that's the reality. There is no vote splitting. Vote for the option, the path that you want to see Alberta take.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think that Alberta first and independence is really our only option. And I appreciate that you are leading the ship and making those connections down south. And I look forward to hearing more about any connections that you've managed to drum up and bringing back to Alberta. So continue
Awesome.
to do that.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Bruce, and it's always great to connect and have good conversations, and look forward to keeping you updated.
Well, I look forward to it.
I want to hear all about it.
Well, I will hopefully be having some recordings. We'll be talking about the weekend and how it went. But God bless you all. God bless you and your family. Continue to do what you're doing. I appreciate it. I think that independent-minded Albertans love what you're doing. So continue to do it. Thank you so much for being there.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thanks for your time.
All right, everyone. If you're still watching, please make sure to share this information out. We have got to get this onto more eyeballs. Obviously, we are being shadow banned left and right. And let's stay sane together. Keep your head on a swivel. This is Bruce, and I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for watching Unscrew the News. I appreciate your participation in freedom in Canada. Share this information and help others to wake up. God bless.